Hello, everybody. This is Jeffrey Scott with the Reborn Free Motor Coach, and you guys have been following my project where we've gutted the RV completely. We've removed everything, and I know that some of what I say seems a little cocky or arrogant, or well, I just think it needs to be better. Blah 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 blah. Really, it's just personal preference. I was very happy with the Born Free that when we got it, and I was excited about its setup. I loved the setup; it was great. Unfortunately for us, we had leaks and we had mold, and the more we dug into it, the more problems we found. We just ended up with an abused unit, and it's okay, it's all right. But the beautiful thing is now you guys get to learn about what we found, and we can show off some things that you may not know about the unit. And in this particular case, we're going to talk about load range on the 2024 RB. Now, I don't know when they started to make changes in the load range, but I know that surrounding even up to the 2004, I believe, and I hope that someone says, hey, by the way, we changed it in this. So, if you're one of the engineers or one of the people that worked on them, let me know when you made the change, because I think that'll be important for everybody. But we had an issue with the framing on the hitch section that I'm going to talk to you about today, and we're going to explain some load range issues. So I'm going to transfer over onto a slideshow. And, oh, look, there's our first little slide there. Jeffrey Scott's Reborn Free Motor Coach. I feel like I need a theme song for this because I'm about the way it's starting to feel. Okay, so we're going to talk about towing and your load range. Once again, I have a 2000 Born Free 24RB. It's got the Triton V10. It's the E450 chassis, and that's a picture of it when we first got it. That's sitting in North Carolina before we brought it home. And what we have, here's the tag, the VIN tag for it. So our total gross vehicle weight rating is 14,050 pounds. The front axle has about 4,600 pounds on it, and the rear axle had 9,450 pounds. Okay, now this shows that just the base weight is about 9,915, just base weight. But the gross vehicle weight is 1,450. In our case, we've removed 3,500 pounds of interior, 150 pounds of plumbing, 350 pounds of generator, another 100 some odd pounds of propane, 80 pounds of support brackets. Overall, we've taken out a little over 4,000 pounds of scrap. It's the entire interior is gone. The generator's gone. The tanks are gone. Everything's gone except for the gas tank, the engine, and the transmission. That's all I got left. And a shell of a fiberglass shell. So the water tanks, everything has a weight to it, and I want you to understand what some of that weight really is. So behind the wheels, okay, first of all, the back wheels are almost half of the vehicle length. It has an 11-foot plus or minus cantilever. That's weight behind the back wheels that hangs over and creates a balancing act with the RV, and that's what we really deal with on these types of things, is a balancing act, because those back wheels are so far forward. If they were back another 3 feet, it would change considerably the cantilever and the back weight to this. But there it is, sitting. You got about 14 feet between the pressure points on the tires in between, and then 11-foot cantilever in the back. Grand total of 24 and 9.5 inches. But let's take a look at the loads behind the wheels here. Your black water tank is 29 gallons. And with black water, that total comes out to 261 pounds. Gray water is a little bit less per gallon. So that's at 21 gallons is 189 gallons, or 189 pounds. The fuel tank is 55 gallons, and that gives you 330 pounds of weight. Your clean water, that shouldn't be in this list because it sits right on top of the wheels, but since it does slosh around in there, it does have a little bit of effect on it. And your water heater sits way in the back at 6 gallons, which is 48 pounds. So roughly you've got 1,108 pounds behind the wheel that sloshes, moves with the rest of the RV. If everything is full, your cantilever weight will be much greater, which means you're going to have more weight on the back of this thing. Weight limits are important to know. Cantilever is a huge factor in this style of motorhome. Too much weight in the back causes the front to rise, which affects steering and braking ability as well as traction. Okay, so we have 9,915 pounds on the back axle. We have 4,600 pounds on the front axle. This shows a diagram of now I only have 5,720 because I've removed a lot of weight. Okay. Let's look at the distribution of weight. So on the very top of this diagram, you see the two red arrows and the kind of like flags. In front of the rear axle, we have the generator, the propane tank, all the seats, chairs, tables, bench sleeper. We also have the engine, transmission, front seats, and the loft. Okay, that's all in front of the rear axle. Behind the rear axle, we have a fuel tank, gray water tank, black water tank, hot water heater tank, kitchen and bath cabinets and fixtures. And we're not even putting a trailer on this yet, okay? Directly on top of the axle, we have the refrigerator, the heater, the clean water tank, AC panel, and air conditioner. Those all add direct weight down onto the axle. It does not really affect cantilever except for the water that sloshes around in the clean water. But if you have a lot of things in the fridge, you have a full tank, it's still going to play a little bit of a role. Let's talk about the framing. This is where, if it wasn't just for the weight, this is where the Achilles heel of the Born Free is when it comes to towing. Okay, this is from my 2024 RB manual. The towing hitch on the Born Free is not class rated. They were not able to either get a class rating for it because of how they built it, or they did not need a class rating at that time because it wasn't necessary. So it was never tested. You wouldn't know what you could really pull with this because there was nothing to tell you. Okay, gross combination weight must not exceed the gross vehicle weight rating. All that means that your trailer can't be heavier than your RV, but it still doesn't tell you what your actual rating is. If you're not familiar with trailer hitch classes, here's what we've got. Class 1 pulls 2,000 pounds. You can only put 200 pounds of tongue weight on it. I've got one of those on my Kia Soul, and I'm never going to put 2,000 pounds on it. That's for darn sure. I'd be scraping the bottom end for sure. But 200 pounds of tongue weight. Mine's actually rated for 350, but I'm still not going to try it. A Class 2 hitch pulls 3,500 pounds with a tongue weight of 350 pounds. At 3,500 pounds, you got to consider 350 pounds of weight's really not that much. So for a trailer like mine, I really needed a class 3 hitch, which can pull 5,000 pounds and use up to 800 pounds of tongue weight. I had 800 pounds of tongue weight. A class 4 pulls 10 to 12,000 pounds with 1,000 to 1,200 pound tongue weight. Class 5 is 16 to 20,000 pounds with 1,600 pounds of tongue weight to 2,000 pounds of tongue weight. That's just a lot. But there is also a class 6, which is not listed on here. That takes up to 30,000 pounds. You're never going to see that on an RV. It's just, you're not going to see it. It doesn't happen. Okay. So let's take a look at the framing. And this is, like I said, this is where we have kind of a problem. Now, I would love for someone from the factory to tell me who worked on these when they changed over to a class-rated system. I believe it's past 2004, but I'm not sure. But anything around the 2000 area, I can guarantee was not class-rated. The red line that you see is the regular chassis frame. That is from the Ford factory. It is a 20-foot frame. And then the green that you see is the extension that was used to create a tow hitch. And this, the extension is where the problem is. Okay. Past that 20 feet, they needed to go an additional 49 inches to make their hitch. This is the connection that they used. When you extend a frame on a chassis now, you actually have tubing that goes inside of the frame tubing of the primary frame, and that gets bolted through multiple times. It also goes through at least 12 to 16 inches of that frame. But in this case, what they did is they took a frame, put it on the outside, and welded it together to the frame with bolts running through it. So they mounted it with the bolts, then welded around it to make it stronger. 8 inches is not, however, enough strength. And the material that was used for the hitch frame is not what I consider to be the same strength as the overall framing. It just should have been bigger. It should have been bigger, bit hardier from what we've seen. But there's only 8 inches of it attached to the frame. That leaves 41 inches to the back of free moving trailer hitch frame. There's a close-up of it there. On the back, of course, they did beef it up because it's a 12-inch back frame for the fiberglass. We had to take all the fiberglass off. We had to replace this hitch because it was all welded shut. It was all rusted together. Couldn't pull it out. So we put in a new one. But that led us to having to remove all the fiberglass, having to make this change, getting up underneath it, and seeing how this hitch frame was really built. When we took the fiberglass off, we realized we could actually see the movement, and I could move this thing with my leg. I could stand on this and move it. I could push against it, move it side to side. We actually had sway left and right, and we had hop up and down because this frame is not connected to anything except for the chassis. 49 inches of it is not connected in an up and down or side to side. We were able to measure about 3 inches of side to side sway, and we were able to measure 4 inches of hop up and down. Now that 4 inches was translated into 4 inches of us being able to move it, but once you add 800 pounds of tongue weight, and you're hitting bumps, that change to about 6 inches. The body itself, the fiberglass body, has its own frame that is secured to the chassis, but it is not extended to the, it is not bolted to the extended frame. You see my red arrows pointing down to that red chassis frame. Once you set that body down on it, it does not connect to the green at all. We looked, we double checked, we were in awe. It doesn't connect at all. So we had to make a change. Here I've got almost a 25-foot unit. I got 14 inches between the front two tires. I got 11'6" to the hitch. And I'm pulling a 16-foot trailer. It's 3,300 pounds with an 800-pound tongue weight. We had to do something. Now, on this diagram, if you look, the two green lines, there is something connected to it, that little blue. That's the fix that we ended up having to do. Without the fix, because it's not attached beyond the main chassis frame, the hitch can warp and shift over time, especially if it's overloaded. So you can see that bend. Luckily, we did not have the bend because this only had a car hitch on it. It never had a real trailer on it. You need to understand that when you break a trailer with an 800-pound, actually, you break any trailer the size of this one, you're going to have not only forward load, but you're going to have inertia that pushes the load down as well. So you get forward momentum and you get inertia pushing down. If you can imagine the weight that's on the cantilever, adding 800 pounds, adding 600 pounds, even adding 400 pounds, depending on how you have your unit loaded, it can cause a problem. It can cause traction and steering problems. Now, it may not lift up your unit like it's showing here. This is a bit of an extreme thing, but this is truly what it's doing. And if you don't have anything connected to the body of the RV, you've got that 49 inches. That forward and down inertia is going to bend the crap out of it. So if you've already been towing a trailer and you don't know what the tongue weight is and you haven't really inspected this, you need to. When you're pulling a car, you have 4 wheels. Now I have 4 wheels on my trailer, but they're all towards the back. With a vehicle, the 4 wheels are, the car is fully balanced, and so you really only end up with forward momentum. And you don't have that downward inertia at all. You just don't have it. So these units are really designed to pull cars without much problem at all. I think that's what they were really going for. I don't think they really wanted you to pull a full trailer with this. Without this little blue tab here that we see in the picture, even a forward momentum, when you start making a turn and you're braking at the same time, that frame is still going to move. It's still going to sway side to side. You can still have some issues with it. So even though forward momentum is so much better than an inertial load, you still want to double check this frame. So there's my setup. I did a mobile thing for a while. You can see that it's pretty well leveled out, but that's with 70 psi in the airbags, and the front wheels are actually lifted up a little bit. So let's talk about the fix. Okay, if you're going to be pulling a trailer and you want to guarantee that your hitch frame is going to be solid, you need to connect it at the back of the unit to the body frame. Okay, we got to add that structural integrity to the hitch frame by adding a support to the frame of the body. Now, this is how we added it. This is the back frame of the body connected to the hitch frame, which is that green part of the frame. Okay, The welds, top right actually goes behind that you can't see, but I've outlined where that weld is. The top left shows that weld on this side to the frame, and then as it comes down to the hitch frame, it's actually welded on both sides of that bar that comes down. That has added rigidity to the hitch frame, and beyond that is only about 16 inches to the hitch. So instead of you change from having 49 inches of moving framework down to 16 inches of free flow or free swaying, which it's not going to sway at 16 inches. It's just not going to bend like that. So this added all kinds of rigidity. It has changed how it hops up and down. It changes how it goes side to side. It's solid. It's rigid. It's a beautiful thing. We estimated the load at about 1,000 pound capability. Doesn't mean that here's a close-up of that, but it doesn't mean that you want to put 1,000 pounds on that. What we found out is that the connection was stronger, but we still had a cantilever problem. If you put too much weight on the tongue, even with it the way this is, before that frame would bend down, and it really didn't lift up the front end of the RV much. Now that it's rigid, it will lift that up, and that's what you end up with. Now, this is exaggerated, okay? The shocks, the wheels, everything, they didn't come off the ground, but we did find that as we put the trailer onto the back hitch and it lowered 4 inches, it also brought the front end up 4 inches. Because I had not gutted this thing yet, it still had all the weight of all the tanks, the cabinets, everything still in there, and there was more weight in the back than there was in the front. Just enough to raise the front up enough where I lost traction. So it actually raised the front 4 to 6 inches. Towing hitch on the Born Free is not class rated. There's a couple fixes. First of all, yes, there's a little blue tab that you see on the back here that we added to create rigidity. But there's a product out there that it's the next purchase we're going to make. And that's a trailer toad if I'm going to continue to pull a trailer. I've closed that business. We're going to take everything out of there and rechange and refactor the load and everything else. But still, I don't really want to pull a full trailer with this with a load anymore. If I do, I'm going to use a trailer toad. And what a trailer toad does is it connects to your actually that diagram is wrong. It actually goes straight into the 2-inch receiver instead of being on the ball, but your trailer goes on the ball, and it completely supports the tongue weight of your trailer and creates that forward momentum you want, just like you're pulling a car, and it takes the tongue weight bearing to the toad instead of the RV. Here's a couple more pictures of how this works. On the right hand side you can see that it's going into the receiver directly, and then on the left hand side you can see where the trailer actually connects to the back of that, and it just takes all the weight. It steers beautifully. If you want to back it up, you lock it into place so it doesn't move, and you can back up your trailer just like normal. They really are a beautiful thing. Now, I don't work for Trailer Toad. I don't get a commission. I don't get anything from it. Now, if a bunch of people go buy these things and they want to, help me out a little, hey, I'll take it. But this is what it looks like. I believe that is a 28 footer. And that type of trailer right there would have no problem with a trailer tow. They actually have a video of a Jeep, a regular Jeep pulling a massive NASCAR trailer with a toad, and it works just fine. So I'm going to go back a couple steps here. It's very important to understand your load. You definitely need to understand the ratings that are available, and you've got to take a look at this fix. If you're going to be towing anything, even if you're going to be towing a car, I would do this because it just gives you that much more stability. It gives you more peace of mind. You just don't want these issues. You definitely don't want the sway. You don't want the hop. When you're going down the road, I'm going to talk about hop a little bit. When you go across a bridge, those bridge sections are curved, and you get this kind of a hopping motion, and just like a seesaw, you have too much of a load on a trailer on the back of that, and you will seesaw that front end right up into the air. And it's scary. I've had it happen. I don't know if my wheels actually left the ground, but I know I lost traction and steering was an issue. So this little 8 inches of connection point it's just not enough. It's just not enough, folks. And like I said, I'm not trashing the engineers. It's just this is what they did. They felt it was enough. Maybe they didn't consider anyone towing a big trailer, but this is the way that they built it. So this is the fix. This is what you need to do. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but it really is important to get underneath that unit, take a look at what damage may have been done to that part of the frame, get a weld into there, and make that rigid connection, and then decide whether your trailer needs to have a trailer towed to take the load, or if you're okay enough with the way it connects. I would probably keep, even with the fix, I would probably keep a maximum of 350 pounds. I would not exceed that. Just wouldn't do it. Even with the fix that I did, I won't do it again. It's just too much. And I'm not an engineer, but this is what I've experienced. So stay safe out there. Take a look at what you got. If you like the video, subscribe. I've got more coming about the changes that we're making to the RV we've got, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Y'all have fun now.